topic. What's up, Brad?
Not too much, Andrew. What's going on with you today?
Oh, just had a sneezing fit before we started recording here.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
No. Man, what was I? Oh, that's what I was doing. I was waiting for you to finish up so we could record. I was playing our one of our dirt rallies, which we did Sweden, which I think you missed because I set the time for like 12 p.m.
Yeah, I missed the first two, unfortunately. So
yeah, Sweden, Finland. Finland was really fun because it was our two cars, and you got to basically like mat it the entire time. And our buddy Jared ended up winning that one. It was interesting. All the people that ran it, like the times kind of went back and forth because everybody kept messing up somewhere.
That's a good thing.
Like
we don't want perfection because we're not perfect by any means at the game.
No, it's really annoying because I could run like so fast and so clean in a time trial, and then when it comes to a rally, I'll have like some like stupid mistake, and it won't even have to be a recovery. It'll just be like a spin, but that's enough to make me lose the stage.
It doesn't take much, just like real rally, I guess.
Yeah, I ended up with in Finland, I ended up with like a spin and a flat, and boom, the first stage, you're a minute down. You're like, cool. And then I only ended up being like 40 seconds down by the end of it. So that's how fast I could have been.
Yeah,
I could have been
saved.
I could have been a contender.
Yeah, well, you were a contender. You just didn't contend at the end. So I'll tell you, I missed the first two events. I jumped in today on the Germany event. Is Germany's the third one?
Yeah.
And I've only run the first stage so far. But I will say that running the event early on is a big confidence boost because you green light a bunch of the stages.
Yeah.
Because you're the fastest one out there when you've only done, one other person has only run it so far.
Don't give me that hope.
I need that hope sometimes to carry on.
I finished it, and again, pretty fast, except for I'll have one screw up where the car just will do like a random spin, or I use the R5, it spun and then high centered on a bank, and I'm like, and then you have to recover, and you're like, okay, so whatever that penalty happens to be, and then the car spun a little bit, and I thought I was going to catch it, and it just touched the spectator barrier, and that's an automatic reset. So whatever that penalty is. Yeah,
it's generally 15 or 18 seconds or something if you go over a spectator area. Yeah. I think that's so you don't, kill people. That's probably why they do that. Like if it was a real rally and you went off there, it would be bad.
It was a slow, I would have bumped into them.
Yeah, they'd have been fine. He might have had a broken leg, but he'd be all right.
They would have jumped out of the way.
That's true. But I did notice that there was one section when I was running the last one that I ran, which may have been, what was the last snow one we did before this one?
Sweden.
Anyway, so Sweden, there was a hairpin, and I went in too tight, so I actually cut the hairpin short by going over the land mass in the middle of the hairpin. And that was like a 15-second penalty, and there were people standing there. And I was like, I bet they do that so people don't actually shortcut this hairpin.
Yeah, and I think
kind of what I did.
There was actually their last update, they said, for Dirt Rally 2. And there was some barrier change in Sweden for that. So maybe they even upped the penalty for that because it was the track was too wide and people were cutting it.
Well, I didn't get away with cutting anything, so I definitely lost more than I made up by cutting it. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, get involved if you want. Auto off topic on the Dirt Rally Club.
I'd call it
boards.
Yeah, it's auto off topic on the.
Yeah.
I'd call it a casual, a beer league, a bowling league.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of equivalent. It's a group activity, but not.
Yeah, we definitely try to improve, but it's not super high stakes.
It's actually zero stakes because You buy the game, you've spent your $50, and you don't have a chance to win anything. All you can do is lose $50, but still continue to play.
Yeah.
So that's good. Real racing. Couple of things.
Yeah.
You want to go down the road of pedantic corrections?
Sure.
So we were reached out to by former guest Bradley Brownell. We were discussing the road course chicane at Daytona for the Busch cars last week. And we thought that maybe the chicane was there because the cars didn't have enough gear to spend too much time on the oval part of the track, being geared for road course. But he corrected us and said that it was for braking. So the cars would be going too fast for the braking zone, so they put that chicane in there to slow them down.
Oh, into turn one? I mean, most of them went in too fast anyways.
But it would have been even worse if they didn't have that chicane, before they get back on
I suppose they're running low downforce. I mean, you can only fit. Are they still running a 15-inch wheel? I don't think they switched to a bigger wheel yet.
No, I think this is the last year for it. But yeah.
So you can only fit.
That's where they're at.
12-inch rotors or whatever.
So they put that there to conserve the braking, so you didn't burn through the brakes every single lap. So that's what that was. Moving on to this past weekend was actual Daytona, and I know you watched some of it, Andrew. Did you catch the highlights afterwards?
I watched the beginning, and then I watched a little bit after the restart, and then I kind of started to fall asleep because it was late. It was almost 10:30, 11 o'clock here by the time they were pretty much going.
The race didn't end till after midnight Eastern.
Yeah, and it was Valentine's Day, so we did like a Valentine's dinner and had some margaritas, so I was extra sleepy.
Yeah, it was a really good race. I am like 100% full in on NASCAR this year.
Yeah, watching it, what I did watch, it reminded me more of 90s NASCAR.
Yeah, it was good racing. The commentating was good. There was a lot of passing action on the track. There wasn't a lot of downtime. There's always the typical super speedway. There's a couple of big wrecks. But there was a lot of back and forth all race, and strategy played in pretty well as far as tire choice, as far as how many tires you're going to take, and fuel stops and green flag stops. And it was definitely like watching NASCAR, in 1999 again, it felt like to me. So I was totally into it. It's cool that there's a bunch of people getting into the sport that weren't into it before. I know that pre-race they were talking to some of the new car owners, and you recognize them from pop culture. Like Michael Jordan owns a car now.
Yep.
Pop singer Pitbull owns a car now.
Yeah.
So these kinds of people are good for the sport because they're going to bring new eyes in the sport, and that's desperately what the sport needed for a long time, was some fresh blood. So I'm excited for it, and this is the last year for the traditional car. Next year they're going to change quite a bit. They're going to go to 17-inch wheels. They're going to have maybe sequential transmissions, and it's going to be a totally different setup than it is this year. So I'm full in on it. There's like 7 or 8 road courses this year.
Yeah.
Compared to the normal 2, which is awesome. They're doing one track where they're going to run, is it Darlington? They're going to cover in dirt this year? Or is it Bristol? It's one of the shorter tracks. I don't remember which track it is. But either way, the NASCAR is going to run the Cup cars on the dirt, which is going to be cool. I mean, I've heard some positives and negatives, but we'll wait till it hashes out in actuality and see how it goes. But I'm super excited for this year, and I'm super excited already for this coming weekend because it's going to be back at Daytona and back on the road course, but with the Cup cars this time. So I'm super into that, and I'm excited to watch the season this year and see how it unfolds. But the Daytona 500 this year was good. It was a long delay, 5.5 hours. Unfortunately, 5.5 hours of rain. But at the same time, it meant that by the end of the day, I was able to watch the whole race because I hadn't planned on spending all day sitting in front of the TV on a nice day. So the fact that it ran at night was good for me. I was able to watch the whole race and see it right to the bitter end.
Hey, we're back.
And we're back. We had a little glitch there with Andrew's Wi-Fi dropout. So I was in the middle of describing the race, Andrew. It was a good race, and there was no no dull moments. The whole thing was pretty exciting. It was neat that it ran 5 hours late because of the rain all day. Because I had plans during the day because it was a very nice day, and I did not want to sit on the couch all day watching racing. So because it came on so late, I was able to sit down and watch the entire race, which was cool. So
Yeah, time zones were your friend for that.
in this case, absolutely, yeah. It's funny because I'm used to watching football and stuff in Massachusetts, and the game's over, and you're like, man, it's time for bed. And I watched it out here, and the game's over, and it's like, oh, it's only like 8:30. That's cool. So anyway, the winner of the race was Michael McDowell.
Don't know him.
Not familiar with him. He's been in the series for 14 years.
Oh, boy.
It shows how little we've been paying attention. He's never won a race. This is his first win.
He's never won a race?
Nope. His first win was the Daytona 500.
Jeez.
And he's a hometown boy here. He's from Phoenix.
Oh.
So that's cool. And actually, they were saying that he's a road course specialist. So it should be neat to see him next week or this week at the Daytona road course as well. So see if he can do a back-to-back. So
Well, I suppose in 14 years, if you're a road course specialist, that's not a lot of chances.
yeah, 2 a year.
Yeah.
Again, that doesn't mean he hasn't done oval stuff, but it's cool that he won the race. I'm a big Chase Elliott fan. He's probably who I would root for nowadays if I had to pick a driver, mostly because his dad is Bill Elliott, and Bill Elliott was the best.
Yeah.
So I was rooting for Denny Hamlin during the race because he won the last 2 years straight, and it would have been neat to see a three-peat. When he started to fall back, I was like, all right, well, maybe Chase Elliott can take this thing. And did you watch the last lap at all? Have you watched replays or anything?
Nope.
Okay, well, watch it. I don't want to spoil it too much here for you, but I'm going to anyway. So first and second place took each other out in turn 4 of the final lap. So that put this gentleman, Michael McDowell, and Chase Elliott as 1 and 2 because they were running 3 and 4. What I don't like, one of the new rules in NASCAR, is if it goes yellow on the last lap,
Yeah.
when the yellow flag comes out, whatever position you're running in is the finishing order. They don't race to the finish line.
Oh, they used to have a rule where they had to go green. They'd keep adding laps.
Right. They would. I think they still do that if it's like 3 laps left, but they won't do that on the last lap. So because when their accident happened, Michael McDowell was ahead of Chase Elliott, it gives Michael McDowell the win. Chase Elliott passed him going over the finish line, but doesn't get the win because when the yellow flag came out, McDowell was in the lead.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
So I'm not sure. I get why they do that, because if the accident happens on turn 1 and the whole pack has to go by them, they probably would rather have a yellow flag out already. But I just it kind of bummed me out a little bit. I mean, kudos to Michael McDowell for winning the race. He was in the position to win the race when the accident happened. It wasn't like he was last place and just stumbled on a victory. He was in third place fighting for that, lead at the end of the race. So he definitely deserves the win. And being the Phoenix guy and having never won a race, it's kind of cool to see him be his first victory as the Daytona 500, which is pretty awesome achievement. So it was a pretty good finish, pretty exciting finish. The last 5 laps or so, they were running just nose to tail, and you're like, guys, you got to make a move, you got to make a pass. What's going to happen here? And they did it, between turn 3 and turn 4, and it was pandemonium. So if you get yourself a couple of minutes, watch that replay of that final lap. It was a pretty wild ride. So, cool. But anyway, I'm fully in on NASCAR this year. As I said, I'm excited for the 7 road courses and the dirt track at, Darlington or Bristol, wherever it's going to be. Bristol. I'm excited for all of it. It's gonna be a good year.
This coming weekend, they're going back to the Daytona road course. So
yes, actually, I'm not sure what part of the podcast cut out. I was talking about that, I think, when it cut out. Yeah, I'm super excited that they're going back to the road course next week, or this Sunday. I fully intend on watching that again because NASCARs on road courses are just right. It looks so good. They're such resilient cars that they can beat and bang on each other a little bit and not just fall apart like an open wheel car, or even say a GTP car, they have, such fragile bodywork that just falls off all the time. These cars are they're a little more resilient. So
yeah, that was the interesting thing. The super speedway cars have like the fenders are almost over the tires in the rear.
Yeah, they almost look like dually fenders in the rear of the car. I noticed that they stuck out a little bit, like a smaller version of, but that same kind of shape is like a modern Ford dually pickup. Like it curves out over the top of the tire. Not sure if it's going to be all the cars or just the speedway cars, but it was neat. Did you notice the size of the spoilers they were running on the back of those cars?
Oh, they're massive.
They were huge. The amount of downforce those cars have is nuts. There was so much downforce that they were scraping the chassis on the pavement. And it was cool because when they were running at night, the sparks were flying, which was cool. But yeah, I'm fully in on NASCAR this year. I just looking forward to the season, so should be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Project car updates?
Yeah, a couple. There's the warranty car update. The Volkswagen is finally back in my driveway again.
Oh, so you picked it up?
I picked it up yesterday. I think you probably all remember that we were talking about the DPF and the EGR before. Yeah. So I don't think I even told it on the podcast here. Last Saturday, we were driving in Phoenix on Camelback Road, about a mile from the dealership that I had all the work done at. And we'd only done in the week since I picked the car up, we had done about 60 miles, maybe, including that day. And the check engine light came on. So we immediately drove the car to the dealership. It was on a Saturday, they were open. And I said, hey, check engine light came on. Because I have the scan gauge, I was able to know that it was the same two codes as before. The P040 whatever and the P2002, which is the DPF and the EGR. So I brought it in and I said, listen, it's the same two codes as before. You guys had the car for 3.5 weeks. Please fix it. I don't want it to be here for 3.5 weeks again. Also, I don't want a rental car, so we need to figure that out because I'm not having the scenario with the rental cars again. So they put us in a loaner, which is good of them. A 2021 Subaru Crosstrek, which we can talk about afterwards.
Ooh, the new one.
The brand new one, yeah. It had 1,400 miles on it when we took it. I think it had 1,430 when we brought it back because, we're not going anywhere right now. So, anyway, about a week and a half goes by. Fast forward to last night. I finally get a phone call. The car is done. I go down to pick it up. Same story as last time. The interior of my car, which is a very light tan, is covered in grease. You would think that they would have been like, oh, this is the car that was covered in grease last time and has been in this shop now for 4.5 weeks. We should make sure it's perfect before he comes and picks it up, especially when, because of how poorly my experience went last time, they promised me the car would be fully detailed when I picked it up.
I mean, the other thing too, so like your very light interior is covered in grease. So what happens to the person's interior that's dark gray?
They don't even know that it's damaged and they sit in it in their light colored clothes and get covered in grease, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's usually like a high-end dealer usually has seat protectors, but still, it's like,
well, I don't know. Like I said, one of the things they said,
like, I know, like, occasionally when I worked at dealerships, you'd have one or two techs that were just like total pig pens, and they'd get yelled at all the time for getting cars dirty. And you're like, go change your shirt before you get in the customer's car with a tan interior or whatever the hell you're doing.
Yep. Well, this was mostly, it looked like handprints. The seat wasn't too bad this time. It was mostly the door panel.
You should be wearing gloves, though. You're working on customer cars.
They probably are wearing gloves, the same gloves they're wearing when they're working under the hood.
Yeah, you're supposed to take them off. That's
that's
amateur shit.
They're working on the DPF system, which is the particulate filter for the diesel, which is a black sooty disaster. And you would think that because you're working on that black sooty disaster, you're going to be a little more careful, especially when you got yelled at for getting the same car dirty last time. So, and then on top of that, there's the porter that moves the car around the lot. and whoever drove it through the car wash they have on the lot, and the service advisor gave the porter the keys and said, "Go get this car," and they drove it up and handed the keys to me and walked away like everything was fine. They had to have seen that the entire interior was black. So many people see this and should have said something, but nobody did. So, and like I said, part of the customer service that I was promised last time I was there was they were going to fully detail my car inside and out.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen either. So, have an email into the service manager just to kind of air my grievances a little bit, and we'll see where that goes. But I'm probably not going to use that dealership anymore for anything except for this same repair if it has to happen again. Anything related to this repair, I'll bring back there just because it's part of it.
I just have a weird thing where, because we've got 2 cars that are under warranty, so I've been bringing the dealer for like silly little just oil changes and stuff, but I always clean the cars before they go to the dealership.
Oh, I do too.
Because it definitely, like, when you are working on a car and you see that it's clean, it like reminds you that this person takes care of it. Make sure it's clean, like as silly as that sounds. Because, like, I don't know, when you roll up and your car is filled with crap, they definitely don't care about it as much.
No, I do the same thing, and I did not do that this time because we were just driving by the dealership when it happened to break. But yeah, no, I will literally like almost detail my car before it goes to the shop. Make sure all the trash is out of it. Make sure any scuffs on the sills are off the sills. Vacuum the carpets. Again, when my car is clean, it's a bright red car with a light tan interior. It looks obviously clean. It's not like a black interior that you can get away with stuff. Like the car looks super clean when it's clean. So it's hard to describe, but
I mean, it would never fail that you'd get some annoying person that clearly had like golden retrievers in the back of their car all the time, and they'd be upset that the seat was like a little dirty, and you're like, really? Because the inside of your car smells like a wet dog.
Yeah,
and you're upset.
Yeah,
over this little bit of dirt on your seat that's probably from you.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. But, having worked in the automotive industry for as long as I have, and having worked on in the body shop side and the mechanic side, it's takes 2 seconds to not tick off a customer. All it takes is that, the dealership porter or the service advisor or the tech or the guy that ran through the car wash to be like, oh, this car's covered in grease. Let me wipe it down before anybody sees. And that's all it takes. It's not difficult. That would get you so much further than just closing your eyes and shipping the car back. So, and it's funny because the people at the dealership, they like my car. Like they always comment on like how clean it is and how nice it is. Because it's always clean and nice when I bring it there. So it's just kind of a whatever. It is what it is. It's back in my driveway now. I literally drove it from the dealership back to here. At least the under tray is on it this time.
Okay.
It's a little screwed up. I'm going to readjust it myself, but I will make sure to take pictures of it before I do it, just so I can show it to the service manager as well. They missed the slots in the back, so it's like buckled down. You know what I mean? Probably hard to describe that. So yeah.
No,
so the
car tabs that like probably hook on the subframe.
Right. So it's missing something in the back. The tabs aren't quite put in right. So it has like 2.5 inches of ground clearance.
Yeah. So it'll get ripped off.
Exactly. So I'll make sure I take a picture of that before I fix it, but I'm not bringing it back for that because that goes against my principles. It's funny. So my car was in the shop for a total of 4.5 weeks. So you figure the rental car cost is $35 a day. So that's like $1,250, right?
Yeah.
So when I brought the car in the first time, I said, okay, the car has thrown a code for a DPF and an EGR. I said, according to the service bulletin, if there's excessive soot in the tailpipe, the DPF is bad. It usually means it's cracked or it's clogged. So that's what the car needs. So they came back and we talked about it last time. They had a whole list of things they did, and they did not change the DPF. They changed the charge air pipe off the turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the car back to them this next time, I was like, hey guys, the DPF is still the issue and the EGR, so we need to replace them both. So they said, all right, we'll take a look at it. Sure. So the first time I got an update, the DPF is bad. Okay, we had to order it. Okay. Then I get a call back. Well, the light's still on. The EGR is bad. Yeah. Okay. So we had to order that. Okay. So last Friday, I get a call. All right, your car is done. We've driven it 100 miles. The light hasn't come back on. Your car will be done today. Perfect. End of the day. Your car is not done. We've driven it 100 miles. Now we want to drive it 100 more. We'll call you on Monday. So now I get a call on Monday. Your car is not done. We've driven it 50 miles, and now you have to drive it 50 more. What? Okay, fine. So I'm not putting gas in the loaner car because you guys are using all my gas, right? Oh, we'll put gas in your tank. Okay, cool. Well, diesel fuel, before Andrew corrects me.
Thank you.
So
my eye was twitching.
Tuesday, I get a phone call. Okay, we just drove your car another 100 miles. Everything is good. We've driven it 200 miles total now. And I was like, well, my math, you drove it 100 on Friday, 50 on Monday, and 100 today. That's 250. No, it was 200. Well, you said yesterday you drove it 50 and needed to go another 50. Nope, it was 200. Okay. If you're going to lie, don't lie about stupid things. I didn't say that, but in my brain, I'm like, you're clearly lying. I'm not sure what happened, but the car is done. The car is done. So I got the car back. The car seems to be done. So I'll have to take it for a ride myself for a few 100 miles and see what happens. But a frustrating situation nonetheless. So at the end of the day, the DPF is like a $200 part and the EGR is like an $80 part. So if they had just spent $300 4.5 weeks ago, they wouldn't have, spent $1,200 in rental cars.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's stupid. That's what it is. It's just stupid. I can't even. How do you stay in business doing that? There was a pretty a lighthearted moment when I was there. The gentleman in front of me was complaining about his bill, and he turned down all of the services. And he was swearing up and down about how terrible Volkswagens are, and he'll never buy another one. He bought the car 3 weeks ago for $1,000.
Yeah.
It's a 2000 Jetta 1.8 turbo with no maintenance history. And he brought it to the Volkswagen dealer and is complaining about how terrible Volkswagens are because of how much it would cost to fix it.
Okay.
And does not know what to do. And he left and I was like, was that guy just complaining about his 21-year-old Volkswagen being like a lemon? And they're like, yeah, it's got 230,000 miles on it, and he paid $1,000 for it, and it needs all the struts, needs brakes all around, needs a timing belt, water pump service. He goes, the head gas is leaking, and the turbo makes a funny noise. It's definitely a terrible car, but it's not Volkswagen's fault. It's an old, not maintained car.
You should have paid $200 for it.
You shouldn't have paid anything for it.
And then abandon it on the side of the highway there when it breaks.
He should have bought another Volkswagen and that Volkswagen so he could swap parts between the two to make one good Volkswagen. But anyway, I thought it was funny that he was swearing it off and he should go back to Toyotas. And in my brain, I was like, man, if you buy a 2001, what's the equivalent of a Corolla, of a Jetta, would probably be a Camry of the time.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
If you bought an 01 Camry,
it'd be exactly the same.
234,000 miles on it. The only difference is it wouldn't need a turbo. Because it doesn't have a turbo. Everything else you would need. Yeah.
Yeah, it would probably need a head gasket. It would probably.
Yeah, it would need everything he needs there. It might need 2 head gaskets because it might even be a V6.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought it was kind of funny. Oh, and when he started it, you could hear that. You ever heard the way the 1.8Ts start when the starters start going out? They make that like squee noise at the end of the starting process. It was doing that louder than I've ever heard one do it before. So anyway. Actual project car updates. Do you have any, Andrew?
No, thank you for asking.
All right. Has it been cold and terrible there?
Yes.
Weather. Nice.
Yep.
The Starion is, quote, driving, unquote.
Tank's back in it.
Tank's back in it. Yeah, tanks. The tank is back in it. Last Friday night, I got the tank wrestled back in there thanks to Naomi's help with supporting it as I was doing it and helping get the bolts lined up on the other side and get the nuts on. I learned a couple of things. If you're ever working on a Starion with nice paint, it might behoove you to take off the filler neck, because you're trying to line it up. The filler neck is pretty much in contact with the exterior of the quarter panel because of the angle you have to do to get it in. So I don't care about the quarter panel on that car because most of it's missing from rust anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Also, make sure you don't forget to buy a longer piece of hose than you actually need for the return line. Because once the tank is up in place, the return line nipple is literally touching the floor of the car, about 3 or 4 inches in from the access hole for the fuel pump. If you're working on a car that you care about, if you don't just buy a longer line and plug it in ahead of time, you will be doing the tank R&I a second time. However, as longtime listeners probably remember, we already hacked the floor in the Starion one time to change the fuel pump that was all rusty. So I just made the hack.
Because I didn't want to drop the tank.
Right. So I made the hack a bigger hack to cut back access to where that nipple is to put the hose back on and get a clamp on it so that it would work as it's intended to. So thankfully, there is a cardboard rear tray and a carpet on the back of the car, which will hide all of this hackery. The shell is short-lived anyway because everything will eventually be transferred over to the better car. So I don't really care that much. But it's in. It runs from idle to 3,500 RPM or so. And then it falls flat in its face. So I drove the car about 5 miles around the neighborhood, got some heat in it just to make sure everything was working properly. The brakes are working, all the lights are working. Last time I drove it, it dumped coolant everywhere, so I wanted to see exactly where the coolant leak was. Turns out it's not the radiator. Turns out that the water pump is leaking. Whatever. It's both positive and negative. The water pump is significantly cheaper than a radiator, but it's more labor. So
You already had one.
Had one what? Radiator?
Yeah.
I do not have it yet. I had one that I was supposed to get, and then the person who I was going to get it from, unfortunately, his father wound up in the hospital for like 3 months with COVID. And he was a little distracted, so I wasn't bugging him, and his father unfortunately passed away. Oh. So, yeah. So we haven't, I haven't bugged him about it, and now I don't really need it anyway. So I'll probably still buy it because it isn't NOS in the box, brand new Mitsubishi Flat Body Starion radiator. So
You'll probably want it anyways.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it anyway. So it was a good enough deal. I'll give him a little time before I start bugging him about parts again. So he's a good dude and a friend of mine. So rest in peace to his dad and kind of give him some space. So, but anyway, so it's the water pump. So the labor is more, but the part is significantly less money. It's like a $20 part on Rock Auto. But, unfortunately, the radiator has to come out first to get to it. So doing at least the same job you'd be doing and then some. But whatever. It's not a big deal to do a water pump on one of those cars. It doesn't require timing changes or anything. It's all on the outside. So that's good. I don't think, does it? I don't remember.
No, the water pump's...
No, it's external.
It's external.
Yeah.
It's belt driven.
So
super easy.
Yep. Super easy one. So that's a good one. Just need to diagnose what's going on with the revving now. So we've talked about on the podcast before, Starion and Conquest fuel injection. They have a throttle body setup So it's a 4-cylinder with 2 injectors. So it's kind of like an electronic carburetor, I guess you could almost explain it as. The later cars, which I've always worked on and had, have a 650 and an 850 injector. The 650cc is the primary, and the 850cc is the secondary. So when the car is idling and not in boost, it just runs off the 650cc. And then when the car is under a load with high boost, it turns on the second injector, the secondary, the 850cc, to give the car the extra fuel that it needs. 83, 84, 85 cars have 2 650cc injectors that fire in sequence all the time. So my first thought was, well, the secondary injector is bad. That's why it's only revving up to somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. Then I find out that they're not. That's not the issue. Doing a little more research, it still could be the issue now. The other issue could be is a vacuum advance. And the other issue is a mass airflow. So I was researching on like bench cleaning injectors, and I found a couple of neat like tutorials on how to do it at your house without setting them out. So I bought all the stuff to do it yesterday. Unfortunately, with work, I haven't had a chance to actually do it, but hopefully sometime this week I'll actually clean the injectors and see if that makes a difference. I can certainly check the vacuum advance, see if that makes a difference. And then I'll have to look into the manual to find out how to test the mass airflow for being good or not. So with any luck, by this weekend, the car will have normal revs, but at this moment, it does not. So it's not drivable yet, but it is running and driving. I did take it around the block, so we're getting somewhere. There's no more fuel leaking out of it, so that's good. One step at a time.
Yeah, and so you're just going to make sure it runs right and then drive for a little bit.
Yep.
And I guess you got to wait till you have a garage and then you'll swap it.
The plan is to wait till I have a garage. I have a completely almost near mint, but zero rust Arizona shell to swap everything into. But before I do that, I want to get the shell prepped out and get it painted so it'll be white just like the current car is and make a perfect flat body that I've always wanted.
Cool.
Yeah, but I'm excited to drive it at least. I mean, it confirmed that I still do love that absolute dumpster fire of a car, so.
Yeah, it's pretty rotted.
It is without a doubt the worst car I own. So, and that includes ones that don't run.
Yeah, it's pretty far gone.
But that's why we're doing what we're doing. I have the way to fix it. I just need to fix it. So, that's it for Project Car updates, Andrew. What else is going on today?
Not much. I got some auction picks and some auction commentary.
All right, I'm always in for that. Make fun of people that spend way too much money on their cars.
Yeah, so on Bring a Trailer, the current insanity continues. I think it's an AP2 car.
What year is it?
That's a good question. It doesn't say. What year is it? Why doesn't it say right away what year it is? All it says 985 mile, 2009 Honda S2000. So that's an AP2.
Definitely an AP2 car, yep.
Still fun cars. And it's a CR model, the Club Racer one.
Which is the rarest one, for sure.
Yeah. 985 miles. So you barely drove it. You parked it in your garage for over 10 years. It's black. It's got the black seats with like kind of the almost like the Kevlar yellow kind of inserts, like.
Yeah, the CRs weren't exactly like the best looking of the S2000s. They were kind of boy racer-ish.
It's some weird aero, but
they have the wing and stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate it though. It's not as clean as the original design, but I don't hate it. So anyway, it sold for $112,000.
So that was what, $40-something thousand car brand new?
Yeah, 45 probably in 2009.
It's So it's more than 2 times its original value.
Yeah.
In, I mean, what's that? 2009 till now.
I mean,
So
it's got the hard
13
top,
years.
factory hard top. I mean, but like, I don't know. That's the thing with this type of car, right? So what? All right, you bought this car for $112,000, and now if you drive it at all, it is no longer worth $112,000.
No, it goes down pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with this car? Put it in your garage and stare at it?
Yeah, it's a collection only kind of car.
And I guess there's some people that are into that, and they have a ton of money, and having the nicest Honda S2000 CR ever is what they want, and they'll just put it in their collection and stare at it, and
Well, there was
so be it, I guess.
there was a yellow one last year that sold on Bring a Trailer with 1,000 miles on it. I'm sure, probably plus or minus 1,000. And it sold for $76,500, which was absurd at the time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's driver ones that are on there right now. There's like a lower mileage one that's like at like bid to like 30, and then there's more of a driver one that's at like 15, I think. But like it's a Honda, so if you bought 100,000-mile one, it still would drive as nice as a 50,000-mile one, in my opinion.
so I went over to the competitor, Cars and Bids, just to see what S2000s were selling for over there.
Yep.
The most recent one ended 2/16/21. So that's what, 2 days ago. Yeah, actually, no, it's yesterday. 37,000 mile, 2,200 S2000. So that's super low miles. You could have that thing for 20 years and drive it, 1,000 miles a year, which is what some people do. And that's a little bit of enjoyment, just look at it. It sold for $20,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why would you? Again, you have to have the lowest mile, nicest one in the world, sure. But I'm looking at all of them here. That's a 34,000 mile 2008, so it's a later one like that one. $29,000.
Well, there's a 29,000-mile one on there right now, and Bring a Trailer for 2001. So AP1, arguably the more desirable.
I think so.
2 days ago, $18,000. That'd be a good driver car.
That's 2 days to go, though, so who knows?
Red leather. Yeah, but it's crazy. I don't know. It's just like, these are good driving cars, so I don't know why you would deny yourself the enjoyment of driving one of these cars.
Yeah, it's the same as the low mile ITR and stuff like that. There's no reason. Yeah. It doesn't need to be. So here's one sold end of last year. It's a AP1 with 76,000 miles on it. 14 grand.
I mean, again,
that's where you go right there.
Yeah. This is the type of car that kills me, like our Evos and STIs, because we had a friend that had a 2001 car that basically, if he had been like us and kept it, it now would be worth more than what we sold our cars for.
Yeah, but unfortunately he is like us and sold it because it was a new car and it's expensive.
Yeah.
So, oh well. I don't. Yeah, I will never understand the blue chip collectible. I'll never understand the trailer to shows and don't actually use it, or park it in a collection and don't use it because, we're car enthusiasts because we enjoy driving. And if you're not going to drive, then why bother with it?
All right. I will say my other pick on Bring a Trailer, and I'm very interested to follow this auction because it's got no reserve and it ends in like 15 hours, is a 94 Peugeot 106 Rally S1.
Did you register to bid?
I did not, because it's just out of my budget. It would be probably where we think it would finish would be just a hair outside of what I could realistically spend.
Okay. Where's it at right now?
$7,700.
Where do you think it's going to wind up?
I'm going to guess like 12.
I don't think it'll break 10.
I mean, if it ended right now, that would be like, I'd be really mad because that's like what I would want to spend for one.
So that's why I'm saying you should register to bid, and just in case it doesn't go up any more from where it is, you can swoop in and buy it.
Okay.
I'm making bad decisions here for you.
I'm glad that Stephanie listens to the episodes
after it happens.
Months later.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure she would notice if you spent $7,700. So yeah, probably not a wise move. But no, that's a cool car. It definitely is. It fits your weird French aesthetic, and it's also probably a very good driving car, being the rally.
Yeah, it's white. It's got red.
It's
carpet,
like a French. Belts. It's a French Integra Type R.
I guess
white with red carpet. That's all you need to hear.
Yeah,
I'm into it. Yeah. I'm way into it. Look it up on Bring a Trailer. It's a super cool car. Bid it up real high so that Andrew does not feel regret.
And then I'm going over here in Cars and Bids, and there is a 91 300ZX twin turbo, 2-seater, not a 2+2, with a 5-speed, with 40,000 miles on it. Basically stock. And it's like, right now it's at like 17 grand.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I don't think these cars ever got really cheap, unless they were like total basket cases.
What year are we talking here?
This is a 91 300ZX. So Z32.
Yeah. They got, wow, weird. It says there's none.
They got to like 8 grand.
There's none currently available. These are 300ZX. Yeah, well, you know what? The low mileage on this car is going to keep it up that high. I get it. Mm-hmm. So I dig it. It's not a 2+2, so that's a positive. It's a manual. It's a turbo. It's low miles. These cars have always been just outside my, like, I'm willing to deal with the problems they have to own it cars. You know, the overcomplicated, really tight engine bay is kind of put me off a little bit.
Yeah, they're tricky cars to service, so you'd have to really be into it to want to deal with it.
Either to do it yourself or to pay somebody to do it would cost a lot of money. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I dig them a lot. They're a great looking car. That whole era of early '90s Japanese sports cars is pretty amazing. You know, between the 300ZX, the NSX, the RX-7, and the Toyota Supra, it was a pretty wild time.
So that's a cool car, a little more on the expensive side. A cheaper car that is my pick, 82 BMW 320i Sport.
That car in particular, the 320i, is that's the car. That's the car you buy right now, because those cars are not going to be cheap for very long. Between those and 924s, those are the German cars to park your money on right now. No question.
All right. That's Brad's take.
Yeah, no question. E30s are getting out of control.
This one's got 220,000 miles on it.
It's fine.
But it's a California car. It's a 4-cylinder.
They all are.
Right now it's bid to $3,100.
Yeah. These cars are not going to be cheap for long. The E30s are out of control. A decent 2-door E30 is a $10,000 car now. Doesn't make sense. 2002s are out of control. A decent, solid 2002 is, 15, 20 grand for a carbureted car and extraordinarily more for a fuel-injected car. These E21s are a combination of a 2002 and an E30. Arguably the worst of each, but still good cars overall. Have you ever driven one, Andrew?
No, I've never.
So I've driven one. They have a super old school feeling interior. The dashboard is very similar to a 2002. There's tons of glass all around the car. They're not going to be as good as an O2 because they're not as light, and they're not going to be as good as an E30 because they're not as refined. But if you took the O2 and the E30 out of the equation, the E21 would be a great car. So
Hmm.
I think that that's the way to go. Absolutely. If I wasn't in the process of trying to buy a different car, I might bid on this BMW.
I mean, this one's not even perfect. Like, there's a picture of a leaking strut, uh, steering rack boot that's torn. You can tell in the same picture that the steering rack maybe is loose and it needs an alignment because the inside edge of the tire is worn.
It's fine. That's the kind of car I want to buy. I like a car that I can make small improvements to and have a much better car when I'm done and not break the bank. It's not a rust repair. It's not a full restoration. It's just an honest car that needs a little tidying up, as they say, right?
Yep.
So, but I think that right now E21s and 924s are grossly underpriced, and it will not be long before they, they won't reach the same price as a 944 or a E30, but they're going to go up. And if you want one, now's the time to buy it. So, yeah, this car's a little scruffy around the edges. It's a perfect driver.
Mm-hmm.
You switch those couple mechanical things over, and this is the kind of car you can just use.
It's cool.
Yep. Good daily.
You get any picks?
So we haven't had a Starion Conquest auction watch in a while.
All right.
There's been a couple recently that have gone through the bring a trailer cycle. Not so much. I don't think I've seen anything on cars and bids. But there's a couple that have blown my mind, and I'm not sure what's happening. So we saw last year, early in the year, maybe late 19, early 2020, we saw a few $30,000 conquests, right? Or Starions.
Yeah.
They were super low miles, undercarriage you could eat off of, really nice showroom, better than showroom cars. So in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, not even, probably the past 4 months on Bring a Trailer, there's been at least 4 have gone across the block. There's an 89 TSI Conquest in a Palermo beige. I think it's a manual transmission. No, this isn't automatic, so it's a little less desirable to me, but they don't seem to be worth any less when they're automatic. With 72,000 miles on it. Really nice car, really nice shape. Undercarriage is pretty nice. It's not like a, showroom fresh or a fresh restoration car, but it is an 89, which is the desirable year. It is complete. It is rust free. It is in California. It only bid to $8,000 and did not sell. Doesn't make any sense to me. On the same era, same timeline, there was an 88 Conquest that is modified. Wheels are painted black. It has an 83 hood. It's been repainted. Windows are super black tinted. It's got the roof spoiler like my 84 does. Interior is nice. Looks like it's been reupholstered. It's super clean underneath, super clean on top. Also has 72,000 miles. It sold for $17,000. So, not quite sure why this one actually has coilovers, stereo, subwoofer. It's a lot of stuff going on in this car. It's not a perfect, unrestored, unmolested car. It's a modified car, and it sold for $17,000 when that bone stock, same mileage one couldn't sell, for $8,000. Along those same lines, there was a 88 Conquest in red, really nice car, 42,000 miles. It has, I don't think it's been painted. I think it's original. It bid to 22,000 and did not sell.
Wow.
So, funny thing there is this car was purchased in March of 19 on Bring a Trailer, and the buyer who's now selling the car bought it for $27,000. So does that make it an anomaly that won't get back that high again? And now he's stuck with it?
That's weird.
So forgetting all that, this is what doesn't make any sense to me. And I remember this is a 42,000 mile, super nice 88 5-speed car. In January of this year, there was an 87 Starion that went across Bring a Trailer. That same Palermo Gray. 87 is a less desirable year. It has 165,000 miles on it. It has the cloth interior, which is rare and neat. But the undercarriage of this car, it has spent some time in a winter climate. Everything is rusty.
Yep.
There's signs of leaks from the rear diff. There's aftermarket like mufflers and all kinds of crazy stuff on there. It's not the world's nicest car by any means. And I think I mentioned it has 165,000 miles on it. It sold for $20,500.
Huh.
There's no reason. There's no reason. It has modified suspension, polished wheels, homemade power steering lines. I just... This is the same car that I've owned 4 of. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a special car. It's an average nice Starion. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I can't understand this market at all. I'm usually pretty good at figuring out the market of cars. I literally gave away my maroon 88, and the underside of that car was nicer shaped than this one. So, whatever. It's just weird to me. I don't get the market. It fluctuates so much. And I would say that those early $30,000 cars $30,000 cars were because of the condition, because of how nice they were. I don't have any reason to justify this car selling for $20,000. So anyway, that's just my take. I don't understand. I didn't look at any other auctions except for Starions because that's where my brain always goes. I'm afraid if I start looking at other cars, I'll start buying other cars. So I might as well stick with what I know. But yeah, don't buy a Starion on Bring a Trailer. Buy it somewhere else and sell it there. That's all I can say. It doesn't make any sense. If you asked me what this car was worth, and if I wouldn't have guessed it sold for a dime over $8,000. That's the kind of car it is. And whatever. I mean, if it's true, if this is what's happening to the numbers, if it's really a $20,000 car, then great. Then so be it. And they all will be. And it justifies me putting some money into a car. The 84. It's
right.
Maybe, but at the same time, it's...
you're not going to sell your car, so...
I'm not going to sell that car, no. But I just think back that in 2015, I bought an 87 Starion with 89,000 miles on it. Right. That was a pretty nice car. I remember the red one from Vermont.
Yeah.
And I think I paid like $2,600 for it. I think I sold it for like $2,800. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't $20,500, and that was 5-6 years ago. So is it literally worth 10 times as much now?
That's wild.
Yeah. And I sold that car, and the guy was mad at me because he thought I overcharged him. Whatever. He bought it, so it's fine. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now with my looking at auctions. We touched on the fact that there's some new auction sites coming out, so we're going to follow that pretty closely. We have the Rad for Sale auctions coming out.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up doing a little bit of a regular segment.
Yeah.
Not every episode, but every couple episodes.
Yeah, every now and again.
Picks.
Yep.
Because it's fun to talk about it.
It is. It's fun to wax ecstatic about the cars we sold for $2,000 that are now worth $20,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting direction the car hobby has taken.
Yeah.
Because it's now, like we talked about, it's now you've gone from purely blue chip stuff at auctions to everyday enthusiast cars are now available on auctions.
This is how you sell cars now. It's auctions.
Yeah, for the most part. You can do them privately, but the problem is, it's the Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace lowballers.
Yep.
It doesn't. They don't get the right eyes when you use those websites.
It's funny because those same people exist in the Bring a Trailer world.
They do.
You know, how was it 4 years ago, Andrew, that I sold that Honda? And it 4 or 5 years ago, and it did not go through a Bring a Trailer auction, but Bring a Trailer picked up my ad and actually featured it on their website. And I was looking back through it the other day when we were talking about this stuff, and a lot of the comments on there were, you know, $8,000. What is this guy on crack? And blah 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 blah. And there's a lot of that like back and forth terribleness on there. But then mixed in with that are people saying like, yeah, this is, you know, it's a 50-something thousand mile 1978 car. Like, it's going to be worth some money. Like, if people are going to pay, you know, $5,000 or $6,000 for a car that's got 100,000 miles plus on it, they're probably going to pay a little bit of a premium for this one. And, you know, lo and behold, I think I sold the car for somewhere between 7 and 8. You know, I got pretty much what I was asking for it. And you have to ask, you know, if I asked less, I would have got less. You know, that's just how it works. I wasn't trying to be rich off one car. I was just trying to market a car for its proper value and sell it on to somebody who would enjoy it, which it's owned by somebody who still to this day enjoys it in the summertime in Maine. So it worked out. But it's just, those low ballers exist there. They're just a little less time wasty because they're just typing onto a forum, wasting their own time versus communicating with you and then not buying the car anyway. So it is what it is. I love talking about this stuff. I love looking at the values of this stuff, and I'll continue to do it even if we don't have a segment.
Sure.
So,
all right, cool. Anything else?
I don't think so today, Andrew.
All right, as always, follow us on the socials. And you can follow me on Instagram, Raced in Anger. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me at TSISS350. And I'll say that again because you didn't let me do it last episode. TSISS350.
Yeah, well, if they aren't following you by now, they're not going to follow you. Oh,
listen, I had a little win the other day, and it's because of basically this podcast, I'm sure.
Okay.
I played. I don't remember if it wasn't Cards Against Humanity. It was one of those kinds of games with the family. And included in this family are some, 20-somethings. And the rule book said the person with the most Instagram followers gets to go first. And I was quite surprised that I had more Instagram followers than the 20-somethings.
I've won that before too. Yep.
And it's 100% because of dumb old cars.
Yeah.
I am not a influencer by any means, but I have a bunch of dumb old car pictures that people follow. So I was pretty proud of myself for being a grumpy old man with more Instagram followers than the 20-somethings.
That's right.
Anyway.
All right. Keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.